Okay, so this is the start of our solution challenge talk. Welcome if you're watching the recording. Thank you for clicking on this video. So what we're gonna do in this event is we're gonna review our process of the Solution Challenge 2021, and we'll also talk about where we're gonna go forward as a club. We're going to do a quick review of what the Solution Challenge is and what are the processes of it. The first step of the Solution Challenge is identify an issue that you want to solve, and for the 2021 Solution Challenge, it's focusing on the 17 UN goals. And what we did to figure out exactly what issue we want to tackle is we formed ideation events, and in that we split people up into groups, and then in those groups people discussed their ideas, and after we compiled a list of really good ideas that were our favorite, then we voted on certain ones to expand upon. And from there, we moved on to the next step of building. And you form your team of at most 4 people, and you brainstorm on how to exactly build your project. And after that, you actually build your project, and then you move on to the next step, which is testing. You test your project with actual users, get feedback, and then make readjustments on your project. And after that, you submit your project, and you have a showcase where you have a demo day for your community. So now that we have had a quick review of what exactly the Solution Challenge is, we will move on to our project groups for this 2021 challenge. So the first group is the ThermoSmart App, and I'll have the group give an introduction to their project, what they learned from the process, and any extra expansions that they have on it. So go ahead.
So my group, which was me and Nathan, who's currently not here, currently couldn't make it today. But anyways, so our app actually planned to target a different goal at first, which was, I believe, goal 8, which was the financial and economic growth one. But our idea fell through in that we thought we couldn't make much of an impact with our initial idea. And so we moved on to tackle goals that were related to energy access and sustainable energy. And this included Goal 7, which was ensuring access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable and modern energy for all, since a lot of poverty-stricken areas don't have access to energy and electrification of their communities. And then there was also Goal 12, which was the ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns, and Goal 13, which was the climate change goal. What exactly our app did was that we created a vent that could open and close and sort of react to different conditions that the user would have, such as how often they use their room and how the climate was in the day or the weeks that they um, were using the vent. And so through this sort of smart vent that could track weather patterns, climate patterns, and also usage patterns, we could reduce energy consumption from a user's home and also still provide reliable air conditioning to their home too. Next slide. So we've had to build this app through using Firebase or Firestore, in that we stored each weekly data or basically climate data, temperature data of the user and their location. And so the week data database that you see here contains like temperatures in Fahrenheit, as well as what day it was and what status the vent is currently has. So either on or off, and then low low temperatures and high temperatures, and then that would be for the 7 days of the week. Next slide. To actually build the interface of the app, we actually use Flutter. As you can see from the GIFs here, like we could open and close the event with the push of a button if the users wanted to control it manually. And we actually only had time to build the manual part of the app since we didn't have time to train a model or train a model based off of base data that we could use to detect patterns in usage. And so on the left, you can see the button pressing of the app or the vent opening and closing. And the vent was actually built from a styrofoam box with a vent cover on it that could open and close the vent through a servo, as well as track the temperature inside the vent. And we actually tested this using putting ice in the vent at first and then recording that temperature data, as you can see on the right, and then graphing the data and comparing it to what typical vents would normally record, um, and its energy usage along with it. And so this slide uh, focuses on or is an overview of our Flutter interface where the user could see which day had a low temperature and a high temperature, and then based off of those days, the vent would theoretically be able to open and close or suggest usage patterns for the user that way. And on the home page, which is on the right, uh, the user could track the status of the vent, whether it was open and closed, the temperature, the current temperature that's in the room, as well as the approximate cost per hour that would be calculated from graphical data. And then the YouTube link of our actual demo is on the
Review of what the ThermoSmart app is. Aaron, can you share a bit of what you learned about the process of creating your project?
Yeah, so uh, I think everyone in our group actually were completely unfamiliar with Firestore and Firebase and Flutter, and so throughout the project we were able to learn a lot of how to build an app in Flutter and like connect it with the database. Um, and also a lot of scheduling happened in our group, like scheduling conflicts, but we were able to sort it out, especially near the project deadline, um, which did help us be able to complete the app. Um, and I think if we were to teach like Firebase and Flutter in the future, um, it'd definitely be a great review process as well as a good way to look inside our app too, and build skills for the future on developing other apps.
Cool. So, does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask Erin about her project?
Definitely working, since our project did implement like a physical aspect, uh, I'm not in the state currently, and so I couldn't help Nathan out like physically, but I would have if I were still in there or in California. But what we did was that we just, went on a call and then um like we helped each other like sort out any wiring issues or any installation issues that we had. Um, but it would definitely be easier if I was there to like physically help.
Yeah, that's that's such a large issue to not actually be able to meet up together. So hopefully to future viewers watching this, if you're thinking about doing the solution challenge, I hope you don't have to go through that challenge as well. You're actually able to meet up with your team if you're building a physical component together. Okay, so if there's not any more questions, we can move on to the next group, which is the Transfer Assist. You can take it away, Giovanni, to introduce your project.
Hey everyone, I'm Giovanni, one of the tech leads here, and the project I worked on was TransferAssist, along with one of our operations leads, Joshua, and one of our members, which is currently in the video right now, Nathaniel, and another member, Crystal. So our app is called TransferAssist. The main goal that we wanted to target for this was goal number 4, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And so our project, well, our objective really was to make an iOS or Android app for engineering students at Mt.SAC that will allow them to create a schedule from a list of like engineering and GE courses that are transferable from community college to their university of choice. And the main idea that came from, the idea that, spawned this project was from my personal experience and from stories I've heard from my peers who have taken, engineering courses at Mt.SAC. And the problem here is that when they want to transfer from community college to a university is the confusion of not knowing whether your course is transfer. Now, there's always some sites like, assist.org, but the issue is that they're not always updated in my experience. And sometimes they don't always transfer, or it's kind of confusing in terms of the language that they use to describe their courses. And also, in high school, I was always told or heard that, it takes like 2 years to go from community college to university, or, it's not that long and it's usually very affordable. But when the transfer process is confusing and not clear, you can end up taking more time, more than 2 years, spend more money than what you're supposed to be spending. And thus, you're losing, right, the advantage of going to community college and then transferring. And so what TransferAssist aims is to solve that, to prevent that loss of time. And it's to get people back on track if they spent more years, because there's people here who spend like 6 years at Mt.SAC. I've known some people about that. And so the app would essentially help them get back on track. Or if you're a brand new, Mt.SAC admit, and you're just taking engineering courses, the app would have propelled you to your university of choice in the fastest route possible by, providing you with a list of courses that transfer and just make it accessible right there in front of you. And also you can see here in the slides on the left, there's some images of it working. I'll explain later like what you're seeing. And on the image on the right is a picture of Assist, like of Assist PDF, and just how visually that our app turns that data into like an app, making it more convenient for you. And in our next slide, I'll tell you about the data we collected. So the type of data we were collecting wasn't like quantitative, which made it very different than what I'm used to. Usually when I've done like courses here on Mt.SAC, like Arduinos and stuff, it's like all numbers. And this was different. This was all like, words and links and such. And the location of this data wasn't in like a database. There was no access to a database for us. So that was a big challenge for us, was trying to figure out how to get this data, how to web scrape it, or just get it somehow. And we learned that Assist gives most of their data in the form of PDFs, and that we learned that PDFs aren't like very structured, and it's like there's no well-defined way to pinpoint in a location of PDF to grab it, as you would with like web scraping. And so we resorted only for one school to just do some manual data entry, and just to test it out. And our future goal was to ask or approach assist.org to have access to a database. The reason why we think this is possible is because most of their knowledge is already out there in the public anyways. And if we show them that we're able to use this, it makes something useful and helpful, that they may give us access to their database and then make this make this app. And if not, we'll do the 4 most commonly transfer school, which is like Cal Poly, Cal State Long Beach, and a few other ones. And to talk more about how we were going to take this data and put into our app, I can pass it on to one of our members, Joshua. So Joshua, you can take it away. Oh, we're still back on the other slide.
Yeah. So for our design of how we would hold information on our app to get information for transferring, we thought of using a combination of both Firebase and Excel sheets. Firebase is a backend database of our app, which we're going to use to store both transfer information and user account info. And the way we designed we were designing our program to look for course equivalents and the needed courses to transfer to a specific major or specific school was sort of like a tree diagram in which our Excel sheets will branch off into other Excel sheets. So, for example, we have an Excel sheet for Mt.SAC majors, and then that will link off to different majors, such as right here in Mt.SAC courses. And then that Excel sheet will link off to the Mt.SAC required courses for that specific major. And then from there, we would also link to another Excel sheet for a specific schools like Cal Poly and etc. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the next portion of the app is the prototyping, how we went about making it. So the main tool that we used to create our prototype was Flutter. We wanted to use Firebase, Figma, and Trello. Flutter is the framework we wanted to use to make the actual app that can be downloaded to your phone. Firebase, as Joshua described, is how we're going to store the data. And then Figma is a really cool app prototyping tool that you can use. You can essentially create an entire app with it without code, but just have it look like your app. And so the reason we wanted to do it this way, or make a good prototype, was so that when we move on to the actual programming, we could just look at our prototype where we would have an already agreed upon theme, color, font, structure, and how it would traverse within its pages. And if you see here on the images, you see a bunch of pages, like app pages. These are iPhone 8 sizes. And you kind of see a little bit like blue lines that go from one frame to another. And that just shows that connection between one app frame to another. And you can access them by, pressing a button. Like if you press like the return button, it goes from one frame back to the previous. Right? So there's like a bunch of linkages going around each other. And yeah, so although in the end we were able to make a prototype with Figma and have it, you can like go through it and all that. However, we didn't have enough time to finish making a coded prototype. And so from there, our future goal or future development of this project would be to include more schools, ask assist from our data, create a coded prototype, get in the hands of students of Mt.SAC so they can try it out, at least even just for one school, see what they think about it. And obviously expand to more majors and even in the future expand to more colleges. So this is not just for Mt.SAC, because right now it's very specialized for Mt.SAC, specifically engineering students at Mt.SAC. But a future ambition can be for all community colleges, for all students, kind of thing. And the link is right there. It's also in the bottom of the description of this video. So go check it out there.
Okay, nice app there, Giovanni. So I do want to let the viewers know that although Giovanni did not finish his actual coding and everything, he still submitted his project, right, to the solution challenge. And so for future members who want to participate in the solution challenge, don't feel discouraged if you can't finish your project. You should still submit what you've worked on so far, because it takes a lot of time and effort to create such a project. And so it'd be nice if you could still submit what you've worked on. So we'll move on now to the last group, which is the major demo. You can take it away, Michael.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael. So I was on a team with Sebastian, who's in the call right now, and also another member of DSC, Lily. And then we worked on our app, which was major demo. Now I know initially I was gonna work on an app that was more healthcare based, especially with everything that's going on with COVID right now. But from the way that Sebastian described this project to all of us during an ideation event that we had, it really won me over. So I don't think I can really do it justice. So Sebastian, if you care to like chime in and kind of just explain a little bit about like the process, how you initially came up with the idea and how you saw it, that'd be really good, because I remember the way you described it to me. It was really good.
Okay. I hope I can match the energy that I had before. after like 11 weeks of studying. But yeah, so I come up with this idea when I tried to uh, choose like computer science is a broad field because I'm majoring in computer science. And it has many subjects that I was like, oh my god, there's AI, there's like game development, there's app mobile. So I feel like, okay, if I want to do something that I I want to experience it before I do something that maybe impact my future. So I wanted to try a course out before I taking the actual course in college, because if there's some video, there's some kind of lecture that actually have like a professor from a university to teach it, then I will get the feeling of that made that the subject or major that I want to do major in. So I I feel like okay, there's many resources out there for computer science. So I started to collect those resources for myself first. And for example, I watch AI video like Intro to Artificial Intelligence from Harvard, and I feel like okay, that field I'm interested in. But when I watch another video about game development, and I feel like oh, I'm interested in that more. And I feel like the experience of actually studying those subjects from free video on the internet gives you a better like personality to what you a better assumption for your personality, like oh, you actually like this more. So that's why this idea come up, and it's about choosing your interesting major based on your personality, and then we have other thing that connect with those majors, such as common study plan, possible career, and free video that we collect all over the internet or over the university for you to try out before you actually major in that major that you like, or you can just try it out for self-studying. I didn't come prepared. I'm sorry.
That was really good. Yeah, I mean that's like the way you described it. It's kind of like the reason why then I joined your team in the first place, where it's just kind of identifying that issue where it's like we had a similar goal as how Giovanni's team for the TransferAssist was, where it's just quality of education, because I didn't really think about that until Sebastian really brought it up to me, where it's like there's people that can go through college, and then of course it's like the whole experience of finding what you want to do, but there's the whole financial aspect and time aspect of that, where if you're spending 2 years in college and spending a bunch of money, especially if you're going to someplace like a university or Cal State or other 4-year schools, you're spending a lot of money and investing a lot of time into a certain major, and then just to change that up right away, it's definitely something that can be fixed by just having some online resources like what Sebastian said, just organized into one place, where they are out there. They are out there, like how Giovanni mentioned too. Like there are some resources that you can find out there for transferring, and there are some resources that you can find for your majors. But just having them all just in one place in one structured format, where it's like, hey, here's all of the free university videos online from like MIT OpenCourseWare. I think I just figured out there's like a similar OpenCourseWare type stuff from Stanford, I think, or is Harvard, one of the two, and much more other just free videos online, just structured in a format where it's like, hey, here's the process about how you would learn it in a university, taught by actual professors in free online videos. And you can go through it and get that experience to see, okay, do I really enjoy learning about this material? And you can save a lot of money and a lot of time right there. So instead of investing 2 years in a major and then just saying, yeah, I'm not really feeling it, you can instead just like maybe over a summer or over a winter intersession, you can watch those videos online and see if you're feeling it or not, or even just give it a week, see if you enjoy it or not. And so when we identified that, that's when Sebastian made this really good layout, just structuring how we would want our application to be like, where we have like on top we have like the interested majors, and then once a person clicks on a major of interest, it would take them to common study plans, possible careers, as well as like free videos to try out, and as well as just a second aspect we had on that, because we know that some people that people who are looking for like majors to possibly go into or look more into, they may not be super confident in their in what they want to major in the first place. So just adding some element to help to help reduce the number of majors that they have to select from. Instead of looking at hundreds and hundreds of majors, it'll maybe bring it down to tens of majors that they need to look at. And of course, there isn't really one hard set solution on figuring out the best major for someone. But at least just having something like we just came up with, having a personality test to then bring them some suggested majors, it at least minimizes that list and makes it less overwhelming for them. And so after this, moving on to the next slide, we then just drew out a wireframe. Instead of just using something like Figma, we realized that we're at a time crunch. We don't really have too much time. So instead of investing more time into learning something like Figma and getting that working and built, we just decided to talk everything out on a Discord call and just draw it out instead, which did take a lot of time, makes it a bit more unorganized, but I think it's definitely worth the amount of time that we do save with it. And so just the general structure, just like from the original layout that we had before, we just drew up how we want a homepage to look like, and with tabs that would lead us to like an About Us page, a careers page, a majors page, as well as like an interest test page. And yeah, that's pretty much it for our wireframe. And it gave us like a basic idea for what to go to. So then after that, we then of course needed to then finalize what we want to do. We have this application, but how do we want to go? How do we want to go about it? Do we want to structure it more of a sense of being like an online resource for people to help them out and having all these videos structured for them, or do we want it to be more like like something so that people can choose their majors, like which one do we want to focus on, as well as do we want it to be a website or do we want it to be like a mobile app? I think originally we were thinking about it being a mobile app, but something like this survey response does clearly show where it's like, okay, 87% of people generally get their resources or their academic resources online on their computers using a website. So it would definitely be much more beneficial to create a website, and so that's why our final product that we made was a website. And as well as just for other statistics that we use, just stuff like asking people if they've ever changed their major before, found that generally it was about like 45 to 55% of people, 45-55 split between people where people roughly 45% of people did change their major, which may not seem a lot on statistics, but if you think about 1 in every 2 people changing their major and that financial impact and time impact that comes upon that is kind of a lot. As well as the question of would having this personality test to kind of limit down specific majors for people to choose, is that something that they'd be interested in, as well as is that something that does accurately describe them in a sense where it's like, of course it's not going to be perfect, but is it something that can possibly be used just to help minimize that list? And so we saw that generally half people said that they'd be okay with having that personality test aspect of it, and having just a survey about how that personality test does describe themselves and their interests. We saw roughly, like mostly people said that 4 out of 5, they gave like the description of a personality test of themselves a 4 out of 5, which is pretty good, which does mean that there's some merit in using that to using a personality test to limit down the number of majors to look into, just so it's not as overwhelming. And then finally, after we got all this data, we just started coding and building. And of course, with the time crunch, there wasn't as much as we can get down, but of course, we still learned a lot just about like HTML, CSS, and just a bit of JavaScript from this. And so we can.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
So good job on the website. So what have you learned from your process in building this project?
Yeah, I think definitely. First thing was just like time management and working on a team in that aspect. I feel like we did have a good organized structure, for our team where we met up twice a week, just having a short, like 15-ish meeting on Wednesdays, and a longer, it can be anywhere from like an hour to like 3 hours, just how much time we needed on Sundays to get that working, where the short meeting would just be to catch up with everybody throughout the week, see how their progress is going, and then the longer meeting would just be to kind of organize some more stuff and to delegate some tasks and stuff like that. But we definitely under let's see, we thought we could have got done a lot more than we initially thought, if that makes sense. Basically, how we didn't use our time wisely when we were on break before the spring semester started. And so we thought, it's like, oh yeah, okay, we have this general structure. Like, it seems like if we continue at this pace, like throughout from the winter semester, from when we had our break to the spring semester, we'll be good. We can get a lot done. But as soon as spring semester hit, everybody was busy. And yeah, we definitely should have planned more around that. But I think overall, like, we still did a good job in the whole planning aspect of it. It's just once spring semester hit, it's kind of like a lot of stuff came to a halt. But Sebastian can add a lot more. Like what else is learning.
So I think like what I learned is very important in milestone. Like, you gotta have something on the date. Like, okay, you have to, on this day you have to get this done. That is really important. And we actually plan out the structure. Is really good. Everyone's like really into like designing the stuff. I was like, oh my god, I feel inspired just like working with them. It's like, oh my god, this idea is like cool. Everyone's happy about it. But like Michael said, like eventually like the time is going crunching down, and then the school started. I actually have like the milestone delay like a week later before like the actual date. But I think overall we did great. I am very proud of this team, because we learned everything from scratch: HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and everyone's like really try their best to work on it. And now I know, and then we also learn Firebase too, and I connect Firebase to this website, and it was really cool because I never done it before, and it is a lot of things that I learned about as a group work as well as the software part of it. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. I really like how you guys figured out a schedule for your meeting, and also utilize surveys to figure out your audience, your users, to have an idea of how to build your project around your data. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, comments for the group? Giovanni, you have one?
Mm-hmm. My question is, have you ever wondered, like, or considered like other ways of presenting this like idea? Like, right now you have a website, but what about like audio, like almost like an audiobook, for example, or maybe like an app?
I know definitely there was talk about like, so do you mean like basically like other ways of implementing the same idea but just like other than the website?
Yeah.
Let's see. I know yeah, definitely like it would be good, especially something like this, to have it in a form of like an app. Especially like, I know we talked a little bit about like it'd be really cool maybe sometime in the future, like over a summer or something like that, to combine our two ideas. That's kind of like they're both academic based and like kind of helping students out, where it's like, okay, hey, you have TransferAssist, we have like major demo, where it's like where major demo would just help maybe people like high school students that are coming into community college determine what major they want to be, and then once they determine that major, then using some of the resources from what you had from TransferAssist to then guide them on that right path in community college to then transfer forward. So then so if we were to do that idea, definitely having it as an app would be really cool. I think but without that, I think for sure, definitely, I think the website would be the best way, because it's kind of similar just to any any other like online learning resource where most people, they want to like sit down on a computer, like maybe have a notebook in front of them and take notes, or at least just that's how I see it.
And yeah, for like we thought of doing an app first, and for other platform in the future, if we can, I definitely would do it on a mobile app, and it's just like a canvas. Maybe there's like the courses that you can take, and maybe the courses that you can choose from, and then put it on the dashboard like a canvas, and with the video that they want, and maybe some like rewards after you finish a video and stuff like that. So I think we would, have for that in the future.
All right, with no more questions for the group, I want to ask all the groups here if they have any tips overall for future solution challenge participants. I know that time constraints was a big restriction on and hurdle to overcome for this project. I believe, Michael, you have a tip to share on that, with like when to get started, how you could even get started like right now.
Yeah, I know. When we were submitting our project, we noticed that you were actually able to start. You couldn't have coded anything. I'm pretty sure. Like, of course, there's like the exact rules that I had to read up on. But how I think of it right now is you can't really code anything until like the 2 months time period of the project. But when you're actually submitting your project, it's there's a question as to when you start, and it said at least for the 2021 solution challenge that your project must have started after May of 2020, which is basically, I think, like right after the end of the previous solution challenge, which means that if you're definitely thinking about doing the next year solution challenge, you can start thinking about ideas and brainstorming stuff like right now, and getting stuff ready so that as soon as the solution challenge point hits, then you could just start coding right away, and that'll definitely save a lot of time because I think for us we spent the 2 month time period that we had, just like by the first month just basically brainstorming and getting everything down, and the second month of coding. But then on that second month, that's when the spring semester starts, and the winter semester, it isn't as hectic as the spring semester, depending on I guess the classes that you're taking, and you also have that week time period in between the semesters to actually get a lot done. So I think instead of spending that first month in the winter with a lot more time just brainstorming, you can brainstorm before that and then use that time to actually program, get stuff down. And then spring semester, since or the second month where you're in spring semester, since you may not have a lot more time, it could just maybe with fixing a bit of bugs, maybe testing it, maybe getting people to try out your solution and getting feedback from them in that sense, because that doesn't really take too much time. It just takes sending it out to it just takes like emailing people or sending it out to people and having them try that. I think that's definitely a good approach. But of course, I don't know if every single year it's going to be lining up with the UN like the UN goals. But I think definitely then in it if you're unsure about that, then at least forming a project like right now and brainstorming for it that does align with the UN goals is a good idea, because generally if it aligns with the UN goals, it'll definitely align with whatever the topic of next year's solution challenge is, which is just like to have a solution for the community, to help out the community. So I think that's definitely the approach I learned after our first time doing the solution challenge.
Yeah, and I want to add on that, and that actually what we did in major demo, because we actually have a lot of function, and Michael would know, and then at the end of like last 2 weeks, I was like, there's no time, there's no way we finish in time. So I was like, okay guys, let's cut this down, and then let's cut this down. We tell it down to like main thing that we want to focus on, like interesting tests and that major, and the video that we collect from all of the resources. And I want to add on that too, is that you don't have to have the perfect demo, because actually if you make it to top 50 after you submit the demo, you will have more time to do it, to finish like the whole project, as well as like guidance from like Google developers. That's what from I read from the website. So you don't have to be perfect. It's just a demo, something that works. It should be fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our group definitely underestimated the planning phase, because me personally, I thought the planning phase would not take no more than 2 weeks, and it ended up taking way longer than that. And as a result, we barely touch on the Flutter as well. So yeah, I think being mindful of the project planning phase is also key to understanding the time management, because then you'll know how much features you need to implement, but also necessary to make the app work. And, yeah.
I'd like to add like two things. One thing is that like before you even start programming app, you can get familiar with like the like software they're going to be using to develop your app. So getting used with Flutter and Firebase is going to be really useful if you do it ahead of time. And another thing is that like although our group, uh, uh, I think a big reason why our group didn't finish is because we found like a huge difficulty with understanding Flutter. But like what we did do pretty good on, I'd say, was like we got our design down really well. Even though we spent a huge portion of our time on design, like we spent a little too long on design, our design was really well thought out, and we didn't have to worry about group disagreements on what certain aspects will look like. So having like a really solid design will like make the like clarification for your actual programming to be a lot easier.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all the points said. I think one thing that did help us with time management was that we did write down like a task list for each person on a Trello board so that everyone was clear on what they had to do, as well as what we needed to get done. And we actually also like wrote like a small mission statement just so that um like since we wanted our app to achieve that mission statement, we would just implement the basics of that to like meet the bare minimum for that. Um so it kind of set like requirements for us as a team to build and like just base our app upon that without too many um without thinking of too many features. Like having a very clear like what do we want from this app as well as what kind of like what functions we want to have on the app as a baseline definitely helped us.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know for our group we used Trello. It was really good, very useful for us. We used it. It was easy. It was very convenient, and it integrates with Discord. And Discord was our main form of communication. And I think that if you were to do a solution challenge in the future, that you should use a software like Trello to manage your team. It just makes everything easier, less confusing, and it's a way to track progress and show that the work you've done.
All right, great tips, guys. Great tips. So, with any last comments? If not, shall we head on to the next slide? So what's next? Wait, hold up. Let me change my sorry. Let me change my sharing again. So now that we've created all of our wonderful projects, we've finished the solution challenge with all these well thought out and great projects. What shall we do next as a club? We have workshops next. So with all of our knowledge and experience that we've learned from our solution challenge, we want to share what we have learned about how to use Flutter and Firebase, and that will be a two-part series. So the first workshop will be on Saturday, May 15, and it'll just cover the basics of Flutter. And then in between, we have our next workshop on May 22nd, which will cover starting a LinkedIn account. If you've been following our workshops, we've been hinting at a LinkedIn workshop for quite a while, and so it's finally happening. Join us to figure out how to make a LinkedIn account, and it is really helpful for networking. I started mine just last year, and I've gotten connected with quite a few people, got a few offers, and it's quite exciting. So join us if you want to learn how to make your LinkedIn account, and that'll help you market yourself to recruiters. Or if you have an account, you can figure out how to revise it to make it better. And then our last workshop will be on May 29. Flutter, it'll be the part 2 of our Flutter and Firebase series, and that'll cover the basics of Firebase. And so if you don't know already, Flutter is like the software to create your prototype, and then Firebase is like kind of like your databases. And so Firebase, you'll learn how to integrate that with Flutter. And maybe after all these workshops, maybe we'll have an end of the year spring semester social party for us DSC members. So we also have officer applications going on. We need officers for the fall, for the upcoming fall semester 2021 to 2022. So scan the QR code, fill out the application, and then we'll set up an interview time with you. And lastly, stay connected with us. So if you want to have all the latest announcements, know the latest, keep up with our workshops and all the fun things that go on here, our main communication is through Discord. But also, if you scan the QR code, it'll send you to our link tree, and that'll have the links to all the rest of our social medias, such as Facebook and Instagram. And it'll also have the link to our website for events. And lastly, we want to have feedback from you guys. Let us know how we did for this presentation, what we can improve on, what you liked. And yeah, thank you for joining us for this video. Let's have a great spring, and enjoy your time as a DSC member.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.